Emmanuel Macron in Brussels, March 24, 2023. LUDOVIC MARIN/AFP. Emmanuel Macron mentioned to himself, on Friday, March 24, at the disposal of the entire Union as soon as the Constitutional Council has rendered its determination on the pension reform. Throughout a press convention in Brussels, the head of state mentioned, "I indicated our availability to maneuver ahead on topics similar to skilled put-on in tier, finish of profession, retraining, profession improvement, working situations, remuneration in shore branches. And, due to this fact, I'm at the disposal of the intersyndical if it needs to come back and meet me to make progress on all these topics. For the relaxation and the pension reform, it's earlier than the Constitutional Council and it's apparent that we'll await the determination of the Constitutional Council. However, the nation can't be stopped. We maintain transferring ahead," he continued. Terribly violent and geared-up militants accused by his opponents of forgetting the new technique made of dialogue and session that he promised throughout his re-election in 2022, Emmanuel Macron had already regretted on Wednesday, in the context of a TV interview, that nobody had seized the outstretched hand of the authorities, which aroused robust response from union leaders. Learn additionally, article reserved for our subscribers. Pension reform, singled out, unions exasperated by Emmanuel Macron since the use of Article 49.3, which allowed the adoption and not using a vote of the pension reform. Spontaneous demonstrations, usually accompanied by scuffles and muscular police repression, are linked in the capital as in the provinces. Requested about the clashes that erupted Thursday throughout the 9th day of mobilization, Mr. Macron condemned them with the best firmness, whereas evoking the needed respectful and complete ethics in legislation enforcement. "I particularly noticed scenes the place many of our cops, our gendarmes, have been the object of completely disproportionate assaults on the half of terribly violent and geared-up militants. We is not going to give in to this violence," he assured. The Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe, Dunja Mijatovic, nonetheless, expressed alarm on Friday at the violence that occurred throughout the demonstrations in France. Violent incidents have taken place, some of which have focused legislation enforcement. However, sporadic acts of violence by some demonstrators or different reprehensible acts dedicated by others throughout an illustration can't justify the extreme use of drive-by state brokers. Nor are these acts sample to deprive peaceable protesters of the enjoyment of the proper freedom of meeting. The Commissioner mentioned in an announcement, "It's as much as the authorities to permit the efficient train of these freedoms, by defending peaceable demonstrators and journalists overlaying these demonstrations towards police violence and towards violent people appearing in the processions or on the sidelines of them," she insisted. Learn additionally, article reserved for our subscribers. Pension reform, Emmanuel Macron concentrates social protest towards his individual the world with AFP.